Hello everyone, my name is Corazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world on this very, well, not very, but very slightly drifter-filled night, and I am just up here getting some odds and ends done for tomorrow. Namely, I am cooking up a bunch of this junk meat, raw bush meat, because we are going to need some extra food to tide us over while we are out on tomorrow's mission. What is that mission? Well, in the last episode, we went to the jungle and the savannah, and we got a whole bunch of new kinds of wood. We have some kapok, some purple heart, some acacia, and some ebony. And we took a look at those different wood colors. You can see them here in the chests. And wood's great, but we need stone now. And yes, we are surrounded by stone here, but granite isn't what I want to build with. It's what we're building into. And so for that, we need to go not too far afield, but I want to go over to this sandstone area over here and pick up some sandstone, possibly down to this, what I assume is basalt area here, and get some basalt. And then I want to go over here and pick up some bauxite. And actually, we could just sort of do a 2-for-1, because it looks like we have sandstone and bauxite and maybe some basalt over here. So this could be a 3-fer. So that might be the plan, now that I think about it. And to do that, we did make some... What's this one here? Yep, we made a spare pickaxe, but we forgot to make a prospecting pickaxe. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and make one of those now, while our food cooks in the background. And there we go. One prospecting pickaxe head, and now one steel prospecting pick. So that's all ready. And I think, aside from maybe a chest to maximize our storage space, oh, and hey, we'll bring you and leave you to rot. So in the morning, once this is done, and I might even babysit this a bit and maybe put some more meat on, I'm not sure yet. But once this is all done and it is morning, we will head out, and I am thinking that we will in fact go down here, because I think this is very promising. This looks like a great place to get started. Oh, and there's a jungle here too. Bonus pineapples perhaps? Anyway, I will bring y'all back when it's light, and we'll head out. Okay everyone, it is morning. It is time for us to be off. Hello, Mr. Swimming on the ground friend. And that cooking job took basically all night, even though I babysat it and fed it meat that I kept hot in my inventory, just like I was doing, say, quicklime. And that's one more reason why I think that the bushmeat is just junk meat. It takes forever, takes all this fuel, and you really don't get much for it. I think 32 at 120 satiation, that's like, what, 3 meals worth, I think? Or close to it. So yeah, if you can avoid bushmeat, do it, but we had an abundance of it, and my soup pot was still full, so I figured it was the best thing to do with it. Oh, there's a nice colored proton here. Neat, I like it. Anyway, that is not why we're here. We're gonna go, I went ahead and marked the location of the prospective quarry on the map, and I'm just going to make a beeline for it after I stop to mark this fire clay, because we're going to need some. Oh, hey, a panda. Look at that. Anyway, I will meet you all over at the quarry location when we are ready to do some digging. Okay, everyone, we are basically here. I've got a bit of bauxite sticking up, and we've got some sandstone on top. So we are in the general right area. I think... Hello, cave. Ooh. Hello, deep cave, and not super deep bauxite. You know what, we'll just pick a spot out here in the field where it's nice and flat, and we'll maybe not dig here, maybe not quite here, but we will dig a quarry somewhere out here where it will be very easy to just have an open pit and not have to worry too much about it. And boy, if you wanted a nice flat place to build, look no further than this. This is crazy flat. I don't really see a whole lot of this in the game, honestly. Okay, well, we are here. We're here. Let's start digging probably for bauxite more than sandstone. But I'm going to go ahead and put down the 2 trunks I brought with me. And we'll just set one, I don't know, here and one there. And we'll get our shovel out. I'm just going to dig out a reasonably large area down to the stone layer. And then we'll start digging down in the standard quarrying pattern. Now, I think we're going to be here a little while. Hey, food. And so I think I'm going to put together a little tiny, well, actually bigger than you might think, hovel, as it were. And we are just going to light it up, make it a somewhat decent place to live. Just so that we have a place to retreat to when we need some rest. I guess I'm not going to be doing any fancy doors. Make you a little bit smaller. Because I don't have any saw. I left that at home. So if we find ourselves coming back here on the regular for supplies and stone mostly, then I think in that case we may look at some fancier doors, but for now this will do just fine. I'm just going to do a common vintage story trick, which is to gather enough hay for a couple blocks of hay bales and chuck them in the opening here. And a roof. Can't forget the roof. We're just going to chuck you guys in there. And we'll drop a torch inside here. And we'll even put down our chest here. Oh, right. Food perish is going to be bad here. So what we'll do is make a teeny tiny little pantry here. And we'll see. There we go. 0.26. And we're going to put our bushmeat in there, as well as these mushrooms. I got a couple edible mushrooms on the way here after I got lost. Well, I didn't get lost. I hit a dead end and had to backtrack a while, but that will do nicely to help keep us filled while we're here. Speaking of food, there we go. And I'm going to start laying down some ladders here outside of this, and I will probably come through and put up some kind of fence just so that we don't fall in and kill ourselves, because I do envision this getting kind of deep, although if we hit the bottom of the bauxite and it's still kind of shallow, that may not be as big of a problem. In which case we'll just expand laterally. Anyway, it is time for me to get to it. We do have a medium rift activity night, which is kind of a shame, so I probably won't be out here all that long. I'll just drop our straw bed inside and take a nap, and then come out and do cleanup work on the drifters. Anyway, I will see you in the morning when we get started breaking rocks. Good morning, everyone. The night has passed. There are no drifters. There were. There aren't anymore. And I have cleared out the sort of pit we're going to work with, and it occurred to me that I might want to get fences going on sooner rather than later, just because of said drifters, because I don't want them falling on my head if we're out here at night trying to get some work done. But I didn't bring much with me for making fences, although I could go and ransack that forest for some wood, but that is not why we're here today. So we'll take a quick poke around before we leave, but I want to get to it, so let's do it. I know what you're thinking. Kurazar, you say. Right now would be a great time for a 20 questions segment. Well, apparently it's mind reading week, because that's exactly what we're about to do. You guys have absolutely inundated me with question submissions, and I have a ton of answers for you. You all rock, and keep them coming. Let's dive in. Zini asked, and I'm rephrasing this one, regarding Dungeons & Dragons. 1. What is your favorite character you've played? I answered this back in the 3rd installment of 20 questions, although unfortunately I forget which episode that is. Short answer, Blade Master Kair, who is also the real identity of my channel's avatar. Someday I'll have an acceptable avatar that actually looks like Kurazar, I swear. 2. Do you have a favorite class? I play 3.5, where there are literally hundreds of classes, 20 or 30 base classes, and then a gazillion so-called prestige classes, which are classes you can only multiclass into after level 1, and only if you meet the prerequisites. Some classes are also more interesting to play, depending on what reference books your dungeon master is allowing into their game. If I had to pick a favorite, one that I could play forever, it would have to be Wizard. However, it's rare that I play a single class from levels 1 through 20, since prestige classes that help you specialize in a role are almost always better than sticking with the base class. Number 3. Role in the party? I'm pretty fluid as far as party roles go. I do often find myself in the party leader situation when I'm not the DM, but not always. My current character, an elf ranger named Laith Centarian, is the party's scout and obligatory baby sister character, and I am definitely not the party leader nor face. One role I almost always end up in, regardless of other roles, is our battle tactician and encyclopedia, since I've been playing this version of D&D for, entirely too many years. Dauron asked, and I'm again rephrasing this, are you going to capture new livestock when you settle in the south? What will happen to the livestock up at Lupine Ridge? Will they be alright without food? I'm thinking about getting at least some livestock in the south. I'm not super worried about getting back into cheesemaking again, but it would be good to have some chickens so we can get feathers to make arrows, and pigs are a nice source of everything, fat, hides, and meat. I would like to see if we can capture, breed, and or domesticate the gazelles, mostly for curiosity's sake. Luckily, our furry friends up at Lupine Ridge are, they're atmophages. They eat air. Yep, they eat air. Anyway, they'll be fine. You really only need to feed animals in the colder months to keep their weight up for when you slaughter, for when you gently harvest the fruits of their bones, or if you're trying to get them to breed. Chloe McCune asked, would you consider joining a server like the Rusty Gears? Well, I guess it's time to let the cat out of the bag. I have been approached by the folks over at Rusty Gears, who have extended an invitation to me. I would like to join, but everything else is going to need to fall into place before I can commit, at least for the upcoming season. One thing that will have to happen is that the Vintage Story Guide will need to end, be put on hiatus, or be reduced in frequency to maybe once a week or less, just due to time constraints. Depending on where the guide series goes between now and then, it may be a good natural breakpoint to sunset this series and start Rusty Gears, but at this point it's difficult to say either way. Chris Kane asked, where did your YouTube handle come from, or how did it evolve? Buckle in, because this one's a nerdy ride. I used to have an old internet handle I used everywhere. It was exceedingly lame, trust me. There are still some sites where I use it, just because I have old accounts and it's difficult or impossible to change account names. Anyway, while I had this old handle, I was busy writing fantasy stories. I'm talking late middle school through early high school. In one such story, there was a character named Klazar, who was related to the main character but not otherwise prominently featured. Fast forward a couple years, I had moved beyond those stories and was writing others, and I had gotten into anime. Yes, this influenced some of the pronunciations of existing characters I had at the time. I scribbled down Kurazar, or Kurazar, as a replacement for Klazar one day, probably while bored in math class, and then didn't think about it again for a while. Fast forward 2 or 3 more years, and I was in college. Someone invited me to their D&D game, and I needed a character. By this point, the name Kurazar had been recycled into a big list of names I keep around for generating character names. So, I built a character, named him Kurazar, and away we went. Eventually, I finally started to hate my old internet handle, and I ended up really enjoying the name Kurazar, and it stuck. The original pronunciation of the name is kind of too much for most tongues, I guess, and so Kurazar is sort of what it turned into in the long run. Flavio M. asked, is there a build style that you haven't tried that you'd like to try your hand at? Oh, there are dozens, if not hundreds, including build styles that I haven't even seen or thought of yet. Vintage Story does tend to skew heavily toward European, medieval, or Renaissance styles due to the available materials, but there is enough variety to pick from many different cultures and time periods, especially when you get into chiseling. Even modern houses are doable, although modern features like metal sinks, garage doors, and so on would require some heavy chisel work. There isn't any one that I'm particularly hankering to get into at the moment, but we'll see where inspiration takes me now that we're down here in the south. Derek, his name is in all caps, asked, if you could choose, what new food item, cooking method, or meal would you like to see added to the game? Sandwiches. Consider this. We have bread. We have peanuts. We have jam. Where the heck is my peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Major oversight. Critical bug if you ask me. Rexelon asked, would you add more backpacks to the base game or add more space to existing backpacks? I would add more backpacks, but maybe not in the sense that you mean. I think it would be nice to have a few more type-specific backpacks like the mining bag. Maybe a seed pouch that can only carry seeds, both crop and tree seeds, and has 10 bag slots or maybe more. More than that, I think it would be great to be able to craft some kind of vehicle that can carry extra storage. But I think the character's ability to carry items and tools is fairly well balanced, especially in the context of having carry capacity installed, where we can carry anything from a reed basket up to a chest on our backs and get the extra storage space. Laney asked, since you are in a warmer climate, are you going to be using a new build style? We're not just in a new climate, but we'll also have new materials to explore. Of course I'll be using a new build style, but no spoilers. Romantic Vamp asked, any future plans to build bases in the other 3 far cardinal directions in the future? I answered this partially a long time ago, but the short answer is no. Traveling east is indistinguishable feature-wise from traveling west or staying put. If those directions had distinct features that were worth venturing for, then sure. As for north, I'm likewise not terribly interested. While we'll see more larch trees in the north, that's about it. And once you get far enough, there really isn't anything to do, since you can't farm anywhere that doesn't have at least a few months that are above 5 degrees Celsius. And you kind of end up in this eternal winter wonderland, which doesn't really appeal to me. Tricky asked, is there a lore reason why the drifters drop flax fibers? There is, actually. I don't think we've come across anything about it in-game, but I'm also pretty sure that the lore for that is found somewhere on the website, not in-game, or maybe both places. In short, drifters aren't necessarily wholly organic, or maybe even at all. They're described as having rusty iron bones and frames, with tattered fabric stretched across them, so the linen is actually their skin, if you will. Henry Williams asked, ever plan to make a museum of sorts for the rarer items you find along your journey or things that are interesting? That is one idea I've had. I think it would be really neat, but I'm not sure how to approach such a build. In my mind at least, that kind of building would be on the scale of building the entirety of Lupine Ridge, all the building's interiors, all over again. So it might be hard to fit into the constraints of these semi-weekly episodes, and due to the scale of that build, it might get boring to watch me build each section of the museum for like 3 or 4 weeks straight. I'll have to put some thought into it and make a decision eventually, but we've got some time. Brother asked, have you considered making a road to the new settlement, with way stations along the way as an ongoing or huge build? Considered? Sure have. Am I gonna do it? That is a 15,000 block long project. I only have about 6 or 8 hours a week to play Vintage Stories, so unfortunately, that's just not a realistic goal for this series at the moment. It is a very cool idea though. Zini, a repeat offender inside this very 20 questions segment, asked, would you consider maybe a dedicated build or Hall of Fame, or Hall of Shame if you will, for all your loyal subscribers and repeat offenders? Maybe an entire prison in the south? If I had 100 subscribers, maybe. At over 2,000 now, I think all those signs would absolutely crush my frame rate. Kristen asked, would you ever do a stream where you build in a creative world, either plans for VSG or just generic building? I've had a couple requests regarding streaming, and while I'm thinking of ideas, I don't have anything planned yet. I don't really build much in creative, as I mentioned in the previous 20 questions segment, and when I'm building in survival for the series, I'm busy narrating my thoughts and what I'm building, or why I'm building it a certain way. I almost never go more than about 10 minutes at a time without recording something, so a stream of that process would be difficult at best to pull off, not to mention full of spoilers. Alex the Femboy asked, what is your favorite animal? Easy question. Tiger. Bengals are my fave, but any tiger will do. Heck, most big cats, honestly. Craft asked, do you play any trading card games? Stuff like Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, or Pokemon? I used to play Magic the Gathering a long time ago in a college dorm room far away. I got out of it because they really switched up the rules, several times in fact, and suddenly my collection of 11,000 or something cards was obsolete. if I wanted to stay competitive, even for casual play with friends, I'd have needed to shell out another $1,000 or so every couple years. I ended up cutting my losses, especially when they started doing that every couple years to force people to buy more, newer, shinier cards. Large Seal asks, do you like seals? If so, do you prefer fluffy baby seals or rotund blubbery seals? Yes, and both. The baby seals are great for a light snack, but bigger ones are perfect for neighborhood barbecues. For legal reasons, this is a joke. Laney, another repeat offender, asked, in Vintage Story, are there any specialized blocks you want to see added in the future, like for chiseling projects or perhaps color variants made by mixing dyes certain ways? Things like bark blocks, for example, to keep the bark texture when you're doing smaller projects? I would very much like to have some more vibrant colors to work with. I know there are some mods out there that add certain bright colors, but they seem a bit too saturated for me. I think it would be neat to be able to use dyes to make glaze for pottery, bricks, and solid clay blocks, for example, but I want them to sort of stick within the lower saturation paradigm of Vintage Story. Outside of decorating, though, I want to see more machines that take advantage of the game's rotational power. I think it would be neat to have a sawmill that would handle the production of firewood without needing to burn through axes, and to also make planks without needing a handsaw. Maybe the sawmill's blade could wear out eventually, but I would want its durability to be an order of magnitude greater than hand tools. I'd also love to have a vanilla method of copying blocks. And hear me out, a lathe. Rotationally powered, and you can use your chisel, just like in real life, to copy blocks, either directly from a block or maybe from a blueprint that could be made using some kind of drafting table and inks and paper. Rivy asked, leaf cutting before tree cutting. Top down or bottom up? Does it matter? Starting at the top or bottom doesn't really matter as much as working from the outside in. This does mean that it can be handy to get to the top in order to get leaf blocks that spawn high above the top of the trunk, but not all trees are shaped this way. Tricky, yet another repeat offender, asked, is there an item players tend to use as currency on servers, or do people tend to trade goods for other goods and services? I haven't engaged much in trade on servers, so I don't really have personal experience, but I have seen some chatter about trade, especially in global chat. From what I've seen, there is plenty of bartering that goes on from item for item trades, but also more unconventional ones. A while back on the Aura Fury server, someone was looking for help with terraforming a mountain or high cliff, and their offer was to provide the tools to do it, and if you found anything valuable, you got to keep it. I didn't take up that offer though. There are a certain few items that I have seen used for barter and trade. Rusty gears aren't it though. They are kind of trivial to acquire, so I don't really see them commonly used for trade. Instead, it's more often the rarer varieties of stone, especially marble, that serves as a sort of currency. Well everyone, that is it for today's 20 questions segment. Thanks for all your submissions. Note that most of these were submitted on the new Discord server, where there is a dedicated 20 questions channel. But don't worry, you can still submit questions in YouTube comments. Just make sure you include the hashtag 20questions. Anyway, let's get back to our quarries. Well everyone, that was quite an adventure in getting sandstone. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and almost 3/4 stacks of sandstone rock. And we have, I can't click it from here, but we have a ton of sandstone stones. And you know what? This gave me an idea, because we don't really need all these stones. We also don't really need all this dirt. But we do need paths, and instead of regular fences, like wooden fences around here, what if I just made some sandstone walls to put around here while we work? So I figure, let's go ahead and do that now. There we go, and we'll just make it a little taller there, and a little taller here, because why not? And you know what, while we're here, I do want to take a moment just to appreciate the intense absurdity and cool factor of this blob of rock with that tree on top. That is so wild. I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's that one over there too. The land of floating rocks with trees, apparently. Anyway, I'm going to bunker down for the night, and I'm going to take a break from this stone we're leaving, because we are getting pretty low on food. We have 15 cooked bushmeat, soon to be a few less. Correction, 10 cooked bushmeat. And by probably noon tomorrow, we'll be out of food and we'll be hungry. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go on a bit of a hunting trip. And also I want to take a look at some of these little green dots on the map. These usually represent some kind of crops we can harvest. And I wanted to just show you all just how feasible it is to strike out somewhere with relatively minimal preparation aside from your cooking pot and a bowl and be able to thrive thanks to the local flora and fauna. Now, if you come back to the same location again and again, you will of course deplete it, but for a trip or two, it works really well. There's one thing I want to do before we go on our hunt, and that is I want to just sort of core down just far enough to see what's below this sandstone, because I'm getting a little suspicious that we might not have much, if any, bauxite down here. Here we go. This is really deep, though. Oh yeah, we can work with this. And the reason that I was getting a little worried is that we don't exactly have a ton of pickaxe durability, and I goofed. I forgot to grab the other pickaxe. I realized I put it back on the rack and then left to come here when I meant to pick it up off the rack and bring it with us. So we are going to need to be a bit conservative with our pickaxe use, but we will still make it home with enough stone to do what we want to do. So I promised a hunt and a gather. So let's do the gather first, because the gathering is going to result in food that lasts a bit longer, and the hunt results in meat that spoils quickly. So let's go find some crops, and then we'll go hunt some meat. So the first thing I see here are some mushrooms, but those are funeral bells. We don't want to eat these, and I'll show you why. Funeral bells will give you 80 satiation, but it will subtract 40 hit points from your total, and we only have 22 of those, so we are not going to be eating any funeral bell mushrooms. I mean, it's kind of in the name. Now, there is a panda bear over there, and he's kind of guarding some other mushrooms. You are on the move, aren't you? You know, I think I want to see if we aggro him by getting too close. You going to ignore us? If you're going to ignore us, then I will ignore you. Alright, you're just kind of chilling there, so I will let you be. What are you? Pink bonnet. Now, I recall we had some of these growing up near us on Lupine Ridge. But you're also poisonous, so we're going to leave you here too. Well, that is unfortunate, because look at how many mushrooms are growing here. This would be a great place to harvest mushrooms. We've got some bearded tooth. That's fine. Do we have any more? Look at all these pink bonnets. Wow. That's a lot of pink bonnet mushrooms. We got one bearded tooth mushroom. Well, onward and outward. Aha. A few more mushrooms. What are you? Patty straws. Are you edible? You are edible. Nice. We'll take a couple of you. Oh, and common morals. I'm assuming you are, yes, edible. Awesome. Here we go. Some more bearded tooth. Some buns. Let's see how long it takes to break with our hands. So 8 sort of hits with the hand versus 4 with the knife. I'm not sure it's worth the knife durability. Oh, and I see some over there too. Okay, so this is more bearded tooth than I initially thought. Isn't bad. Oh, hey, more here. And a rift. I wonder, are they edible? Oh, here's something else. Oh, you're more funeral bells, aren't you? Oh, no, you're shiitake. Okay. Nice. I approve. One thing I don't know about mushrooms is whether they only spawn on natural log blocks, or if player-placed ones can spawn them. or if they have to be at least grown from trees, as in grow a seed and get mushrooms, well, on the tree. You're gonna be eating well tonight. I happen to really enjoy mushrooms in real life too. I haven't had the pleasure of sampling a huge variety, just based on where I live and what's available at stores, and it's not really safe to go out and just, you know, nosh on mushrooms you find growing in the yard, so I don't do that. But I am a big mushroom fan in general. Now we're seeing some amaranth, so I might pick up some of this and maybe some of that rice if there's any mature rice. And that will probably be the end of our non-meat gathering. I do think it would be nice to have some more grain back in our diet because we have been really suffering on grain in our diet recently. Like anything but meat, honestly. We are probably wildly malnourished at the moment. But luckily, our seraph body doesn't seem to mind that all too much. Okay, I think that is going to be about it for that kind of gathering. Let's go ahead and take some bunnies. Let's not take some rabbits. They're just too small to hit, apparently. Let's go get some hogs instead. Oh, they're literally sitting right here. Okay. Alright, guys. Let's see. Boar, and I assume sow. So let's start with you. Yeah, get out of here. You know what? I think I'll just take both of you. Why not? Oh, don't... No. Don't get crushed. And there we go. Alright, let's head back to the little base that we made. There we go. Due north. And maybe on the way we'll stop at that trader. Or I'll drop the mouse while I'm going. I think we might have a luxuries merchant, judging by the thing in the back. Oh, no. Building materials. Why do you have an echo chamber? 2 of them. And you probably won't give me either of them, will you? Nope. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's stack you here in the corner. I'm gonna go grab 1 piece of grass, seal you back up, and we're gonna start making something to eat. Now you can go on, and let's go ahead and we will do all of that meat. And I wonder how we can mix and match these mushrooms, although I guess we don't really need to worry because we have tons of these bearded tooth mushrooms. And now we get to have some ASMR. Okay, while that was cooking, I went down here and I just lay down stone everywhere to keep drifters from bothering us all day and all night. And now we have a pot of red meat stew with boiled bearded tooth, which isn't too shabby in my book, and it'll help shore up some of our lacking vegetable. Won't do much for the fruit, grain, or dairy, but that's okay. Anyway, it is time for us to head down here, and I'm going to start carving out some of this bauxite, and I'm just going to do like 1 row of this basically, and then we'll call it enough for what we need for the immediate future. After that, we will head down not too far away. We'll head down here. I believe this looks like it might be basalt. It might be shale. If it's shale, you know, I don't think that'll be a bad thing. I would prefer basalt, but I'm not sure, now that I look at it, that this stuff down here is basalt either. That could be shale as well. Well, we will see. Probably tomorrow in-game. But for now, I'm going to head down here into this little fun little comfortable hole and do some digging. I'll spare you the gory details this time, and I'll just edit this away. Magic. Okay, everyone, it is morning, and we have almost 2 stacks of bauxite. So that will get us moving for a little while, which is kind of all we need. We don't need, at least I'm not planning for using a ton of bauxite, but that could change, who knows. And I think what I'm going to do, as far as this chest is concerned, is I think for the time being, I will leave it here. And I'm going to pick up some papyrus along the way, and I will use that to make us a few baskets, just to sort of chuck some of the stones we're going to get from the basalt area. And aside from that, I think we're pretty much ready. We've got 4 servings, and I don't plan on getting a huge amount of basalt. And yes, I did come out and clean up these drifters. There were tons of them. I think we're just going to hoof it, and I'm going to grab these 3 papyrus over here and get that started, I guess. And I'll meet you over at the little bauxite area, where we will probably set up yet another little tiny house kind of thing, just so that we have a place to retreat to at night. We have, sand of that green rock. Yes, that mysterious green rock. And yes, we do have basalt. Obsidian stones. That is cool. And looks like this basalt area is decently large, because it goes over that direction. But I think this is as good a place as any to set up our dig site. Hello. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to fill this guy in. And I'm going to just start from like this corner, and I'm going to dig that way, and we'll do same thing, 30 blocks long, but we'll just do 1 row like we did with the bauxite up at the other place. Okay, everyone, it is morning. The high activity night sort of settled into a calm one, and I was able to get some more basalt dug out. And so we have almost 2 stacks of basalt, and we got a little bit of a bonus obsidian, but that's not anything hugely important. What is important is I have my basket on my back, and we are ready to go back to our little way station, where I actually want to hang around a bit, and I'm going to dig up some of this blue clay here, and I'm going to make some cobblestone out of some of these small stones. That way we can sort of compact what we're bringing home with us. I want to bring home as many of the full stone blocks as we can, but also some cobblestone for some texture work. Anyway, let's leave these groaning drifters behind, and let's get on the way back to the little way station. I will meet you all back at the way station. Well, everyone, look what I just stumbled across. We have us 2 mature pineapple plants here, and 1, 2, 3, 4 immature ones. And our inventory is unfortunately quite full. So what I might do is I am just going to sacrifice something. You know, I will break these down into their little stones, because I don't really plan on using obsidian much for chisel work. And if I do, I'll just come chisel some and then I'll mine that. So let's go ahead and let's just see. As I mentioned last episode, I haven't always been getting pineapples from these plants. So let's see if this one gives us one. No, look at that. We got 2 seeds and no pineapple. That is a shame. Well, I mean, seeds are great, but I'd love a pineapple too. And here's number 2. Again, no pineapple. So I think we can confirm there is a bug with wild crops right now. So just be aware. I have noticed that we've been getting a lot less produce from these. In the last episode, I noted that. And so be aware when you are out foraging, you're doing it in 1.17.4, then be aware that you're going to be a little hungrier than usual. And you'll have to scavenge a bit farther afield than usual. Anyway, that was all I wanted to say on that matter. A bit of discovery, exploration, and hello, ugly cave. Let's take a reading from you. Ooh. Oh, hey, hey, hey. Look at this. Okay, pause. I'm going to go down here and make sure nothing's going to come get us because nothing's climbing that. I'm going to get my sample before I forget. Is great news. This is the first one we found so far down here. So, they've added in 1.17 these sort of junk blocks, and they're really gorgeous. I mean, they're great work. Ruined anvils, ruined chairs, just things just splayed everywhere, which is interesting. They actually put granite stone in the crate. Huh. That's wild. And hey, there's stuff in you. Hematite. Wow. That's different. I don't have room for any of this. But let's go ahead and step on you just so that our campaign cartographer mod can mark you. And we... well, it's a bit of a hike, but that's not, I don't think, as bad as the original translocator from Lupine Ridge, where we had to go way up north. Pretty sure this is like half the distance, if not less. So that's a cool find. Okay. Okay, this time for real, I swear, I'm not going to find any more holes to poke my head in. I really won't, except for that one. Yep, no holes. We are not poking our head down any holes. We're not going to find any more ruins or translocators. Nope, not us. Okay, good. Nothing down there. Anyway, I will, for real, meet you back at the quarry this time. I'm serious. Okay, everyone. We are back, and it is the next morning, and I am pretty well packed. Let me show you what I've got. So, in our inventory here, we have 2 stacks each of the new types of cobblestone, basalt, sandstone, and bauxite. And we have a bit of extra stuff in here. I'm going to bring this stone path, actually. And looks like I do have room for the rest of this sandstone. So we'll bring that too. Why not? As for the rest of everything, I still have it in here. And we have the other stones in here. The basalt, bauxite, and sandstone. We're going to bring home the peanut seeds, the pineapple seeds, the galena, and the remaining food that we found and haven't eaten yet. So we're going to bring home a pretty good chunk of mushrooms and a little bit of grain, which should help tide us over until our farms finally start producing. So I think that is where we're going to leave it for today, because I'm just going to go home and drop all this off, and I figure you don't need to see that because it's just me riffling through our inventories again. And I have been at this for 3 hours now, so I think I can say that is all the time we have for this episode of the Vintage Story Guide. I hope you enjoyed our little foray out into the wild and getting some quarrying done for our new builds to come. And I hope you enjoyed the 20 questions segment. You guys had a ton of questions, and I had to sort of do a lightning round with those, I think. Anyway, we now have, I think, most, if not all, of the materials that we need to start our house. And all that's left is going to be cutting into the rock a bit. So look forward to some building in the next couple episodes. And since it's time to restart the 20 questions bin again, if you have any AMA questions you'd like me to answer in a video like this one, drop them in a comment with the hashtag 20questions, or in the hashtag 20questions channel over in the Discord server. Support and social links, including a link to the Discord server in question, are in the video description. As always, my name has been Corazar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.